Hello, everybody. The Warriors pulled out a game against the Spurs with, as usual, a weird ending. Warriors are clinging to a 3-point lead, but they do have the ball. One thing I admire about Kuminga is he is fearless and he really wants the ball and to be in the play. Kuminga decides I'm going to come set a screen for Jordan Poole, and I know the Spurs are switching everything. And so if I screen, then I'm going to be able to get this defender to switch onto me, which is good because he's tiny and I can dunk him into the basket. So that's why he's trying to slip the screen immediately. And it's a little too immediately. Tre Jones is only 6'1", but you're still not allowed to run over him, as Tre Jones is trying to go under the screen, and that just means they run into each other. And Tre Jones has 1 year of experience, I think, and Kuminga's a rookie, so I guess the rookie does not get the call. And this is a offensive foul for a moving screen and a turnover. Kuminga not only keeps his balance, but he is outraged at this call. He's like, what? I'm not allowed to walk places? I didn't even start setting a screen. But it just looked too much like a moving screen. Getting angry does seem to make Kuminga more energized and really want the ball. So on defense, wanting the ball means he wants to guard the ball. Kuminga, he's just lurking. He's just dying to switch onto the ball handler. Gary Payton II tries to ice this pick and roll, and so he's forcing the ball handler to not take the middle screen. And so the ball handler says, fine, because usually whoever's screening, their defender is supposed to drop to contain this drive. So Kuminga is out of position for ice defense, but Kuminga feels like, I'm never out of position, man. Look, and with some pretty quick lateral movement, he cuts off this drive. So that was impressive stuff. This turns into a dribble handoff, but you know there's no way Kuminga's going to stay on his man. He's going to definitely want to meet the ball on the other side because he's on a rampage. Well, first of all, the alternative is for Jordan Poole to follow the man, which doesn't feel like the right defense. And secondly, I don't think it matters who the other co-defender is because Kuminga just wants to guard the ball. He's pissed and he just wants to swallow up the Spurs. So he volunteers as tribute, takes on Wisekamp, more switching happening. This guy's getting a ram screen. He's going to come up and set a screen, and he's getting a screen himself before he gets there. And Wiggins is calling out, hey, I need help. Poole does successfully switch, but this guy's continuing, and it's looking like it's going to be another handoff. Primo's going to turn the corner. I like this little wave of his arm. He's waving everyone off like, everyone get away from me. I'm taking on this ball handler. So Primo tries a little hesitation move, and then Kuminga stays with him pretty well. Primo ends up picking up his dribble, and so Kuminga just leans over him like a specter haunting Europe, and that is a pretty soft foul call. You can see Kurt saying Kuminga was straight up with his arms out. How can you call a foul on him? And then the referee explains to him that this is Kuminga's first year in the league and he's got to get hazed and he will not get any rookie calls. Spurs set up the pick and roll. Jordan Poole tries to beat the man to the screen. I don't know if this is a late ice or he was just trying to take a charge. He can't believe that this is a no call. It's like that was either a block or a charge. Just pick one. But they decided that was a no call, and everyone's looking around a bit like, that was a no call, huh? So Wiggins says, oh, I guess I better defend this guy. So he's closing out, but because Poole's on the ground, gosh, why is Poole on the ground? Someone's unguarded, and that someone is number 33. It looks like there's a seam to the basket, but the seam, unfortunately for him, goes between Draymond Green and Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga is guarding the 3-point shooter in the corner. I don't know if this is the smartest stunt, but he does stunt in to threaten to strip this man as he goes by, and Draymond is his usual intimidating self. So Kuminga steps in, and then he's now recovering out to the corner in case the dish comes. But Tre Jones is intimidated enough by Draymond being here that he goes for this floater, but not this time. Huge crashing of the offensive boards, but they knock it out of bounds. The Warriors want a reliable play, get off a good shot, kill some time on the clock, so they go to the Klay play. This means Poole sets pin down Otto Porter Jr., who's going to come over here and set a screen, or Wiggins up here, and usually he's going to insta-slip this screen. That's just the way the plays usually run. Main action is usually whoever sets this pin down. I call it the Klay play because it used to be Klay before Klay got injured. They're going to sweep out and pop out for a shot, and they'll get a pin-in screen, in this case from Draymond. The play starts off looking right. There was the pin down, but now Otto Porter Jr. gets tripped by his defender. I think that's Zach Collins, who's Klay Thompson's least favorite player in the NBA, possibly. And so Otto Porter Jr. is not going to slip the screen. He's just going to straight up slip. As Otto plummets to the ground, this part of the play is going as planned. Draymond is setting this pin in, Poole sweeping out, Wiggins looking to throw the pass over. The defender worked hard to get through the pin and screen, and so Poole is just going to flow this straight into a split cut with Draymond. I like that. The spacing's a little funny because Otto Porter's on the ground. Gosh, what is Otto doing on the ground? They're going to triple split here. Someone always dives to the basket, someone always pops out, and the third person sets some kind of screen for the popper. Otto Porter does cut to the basket. Jordan Poole is the one who sets the pin and screen. That's not usual. Wiggins comes out, but this defender behind Poole is going around to cut off Wiggins. Draymond decides to make a move himself because that doesn't look very promising. I like Kuminga's enthusiasm here. He comes swooping in for this cut down the paint to let Draymond hit him, but Draymond turns out of the post, and so that's right where Kuminga was planning to cut, so Kuminga does back out of his cut. That seems healthy. But Draymond, even though it's 4 on the shot clock, he doesn't decide to just go one-on-one and just try to hoist up some prayer. He still loves the idea of Kuminga cutting, and so with his body language, he's telling Kuminga, hey, come cut anyway, I'll give you the ball. Landale here seems to be looking at Draymond, which gives Kuminga a split second to cut in his blind spot. That's just pretty. So Kuminga sweeps around, and he's going to go drive with power right to the basket. And he just clobbers Zach Collins, who did look like he was in an upright defensive position, so I don't think this was a block. And despite the fact that he just smashed into a 250-pound 6'11 dude and knocked him backwards like he was a pinball, he almost makes this really hard shot, and there's no foul call. Kuminga cannot believe this treatment. Spurs running quick pick and roll. This guy looks like he's going to set a screen for the ball handler, so Poole is fully ready to switch to the ball handler, and he indicates this by giving the man he's not going to be guarding anymore, he gives him a distasteful shove, like, Wiggins, you take out this trash, shove. So now he's getting ISO'd up. Poole is not alone. We've got Draymond Green and Otto Porter Jr. So if Poole gets beat on this drive, which we assume is going to happen, the person who rotates in the NBA is usually the weak side low man, so the weak side on the opposite side of the ball, and then low meaning the closest to the basket. But Draymond is feeling like, no. I know that in this scheme you're going to rotate, but no, I'm going to rotate. And so he's pointing to Otto Porter saying, man, you come over here. We're going to swap here, and you're going to go to this position. I'm going to sink back here, and I'm going to be the guy to rotate when this driver turns the corner. Ideally, Poole would have funneled the driver to come in this angle, so it will limit their choices of action. But unfortunately, this defender's now breached the middle. Draymond says, all right, let's do this. And he comes over to contain this drive. And that's just pretty good defense. I'm not sure who gets their hand on this, but they bat the ball out of the way. And Jonathan Kuminga is over here grabbing this loose ball. Interestingly, Poole brings it up fast, and instead of killing time, he decides to throw in a hezzy move and blow by with speed. Alright, so no more messing around. Andre Iguodala coming in for defense. Kuminga had that great second quarter where he poured in 13 points and gave the Warriors a cushion that they would mostly lose over the second half, and played with some good power in the post in the fourth quarter. The very last 2 minutes, a little bit rough for him. Rough whistle from the referees. But he definitely hustled, and gotta love his competitiveness and his ability to switch on to all kinds of different players and the desire to go be a clampdown defender. This is an unusual mix-up defensively between Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green. Collins is setting the screen from an unexpected angle, and Draymond thinks that Andre is going to contain this ball from going middle. So Draymond moves over here because he's definitely expecting the ball to be funneled down the sideline. But Andre ends up backing into the screen, which gives Tre Jones a chance to completely blow by, rejecting the screen. Andre is so taken aback by this, he almost falls over. Draymond is halfway to contain position over here, so 33 is going to turn the corner. It's the weak side low man, Otto Porter Jr. here, who has to rotate to cut off the drive, so here he comes. He's going to contain this drive. Tre Jones, the minute he sees that Otto Porter is moving, He thinks my guy's open in the corner. And so he gets in the air, throws a dart to the corner. This is a completely open three. Andrew Wiggins is busting his butt to try to close out, but this is just a hope he misses kind of situation. Here Andre ends up having to box out the bigger and more annoying Zach Collins. Andre definitely thinks that Zach Collins went over his back and bonked him on the back of the head. I'm not sure you can see it from this angle. Thunk. So you did see Andre's head move with a sudden change of velocity. And luckily the ball does bounce away, but Andre is not happy with the no call on that. So he's already pointing to the referee, possibly pointing at Zach Collins saying, that guy just smacked me in the head. And look at this dedication to explaining his argument. He's going to wind up and give himself a pretty big whack on his own head to simulate the experience. Wonk. And before we get into the bizarre play with Jordan Poole, finishing off Andre's little emotional journey here, after his method acting miming of getting whacked in the head, he's going to walk over to Draymond and try to check in with him. And I believe Andre's saying, that was my screw up. I should have contained that ball handler from going middle, because that's more or less the Warriors' defensive scheme. And you can see Andre making motions to Draymond. So here now they've talked, and Andre, he's going to pat himself on the chest like he's saying, yeah, this was my bad, that was my bad. So Jones is definitely getting very touchy-feely with Poole. He just kind of whacks his arm and he gets his hand caught up in this little wrist wrap. He ends up pulling it inside out. So there it is. Poole's looking at this thing saying, what have you done to my wrist wrap? Wristy. And he says, all right, Wristy is dead. Wristy, you will be remembered, but you're also keeping me from dribbling with my left hand, so I gotta dispose of your body fast. He actually finally flings it off. Unfortunately for him, he's flung Wristy onto the black part of the Spurs logo so no one can see where it is. This is actually a little bit dangerous. So he just steps with one of his feet directly on Wristy, and poor Wristy over here, his little carcass is flying off the screen, and poor Jordan is going to end up face planting because he slipped on Wristy. That's the look of a man who not only did not get the foul call when he got raked across his left hand, but also had to dispose of the body of his beloved wristband, Wristy. And amazingly, the Spurs successfully challenged this ruling, and it was ruled not a foul, which has got to be up there with the hot stove contact and the LeBron James slide tackle as one of the more mystifying review results. Kuminga showed some good things in crunch time, but whether or not you think the fouls are justified, he did have a bunch of fouls in the last 2 minutes of the game. So I can see why Kerr might be a little reluctant to use him in a super serious playoff situation. And so that's why he's had Kuminga out of the rotation, because he's been wanting to get his veterans ready, because they're the ones he's going to lean on for the playoff rotation.